and go away, it just always makes me appreciate so much what we have here. And I know I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it again. I don't know if you guys even know how special you are. So I had the opportunity when I was gone, and those of you that were here, if you remember, you helped me prepare to teach in Birmingham. Remember we did a whole brainstorming session on how to drive listing leads? Well, I took all of your notes that we put up on the board and built my class around that, and it was really fun to be in a room with no one I knew and tell your stories, which was awesome, to be able to talk about different ones of you and what you've done with your businesses, and watch their faces just go, oh my gosh. And I think sometimes it's kind of like the kid that grows up and has dinner on the table every night doesn't realize that that's not the way the rest of the world necessarily, like we take it for granted, right. You know? And I think that you guys take for granted that you are amazing people and you work with amazing people. So, yes, Jacob.
Kevin Cross just got back from Orlando, and I ran into him in the hall this morning. He said the exact same thing. He's like, "Oh my gosh, man! Nobody up here realizes how awesome we are." Said it just like that.
It's really, really true. And so I'm sitting in Birmingham, and there's 5 offices in Birmingham, 5 market centers, and each office has about 40 people. And I drove through Birmingham, Alabama, which is a big, it's urban sprawl, right? Big town, where my sister used to live, from my parents' house, it's a 45-minute drive, and that's from one end of town to the middle of town. It doesn't even get to the other side of town. And the entire time I was there, this is not an exaggeration, my brother and I counted, I saw 3 Keller Williams signs. Wow. One of them I saw twice. Wow. So really 2. And they have no listing presence.
I saw more than that driving down to Soldotna.
I know. Well, I mean,
I see Chris's signs all over the
and his face. His face is right there in their face. No, but like I remember posting on Facebook one day. I drove Mac out to his buddy, my youngest son, out to his buddy's house in Wasilla, and I passed, I don't know, 6 or 7 real estate signs on the way there, and every single one was Keller Williams. And you guys have a listing presence, and it's because, here's why. It's not just because inherently you guys are just awesome, although you are. It's because you are business owners, and you think that way, and you've learned to think strategically like a business owner. So I'm sitting here with Kay Evans, and Matt knows Kay, and Kay she's probably one of the sharpest women in the Keller Williams system. She owns the Southeast region, which is the #1 region in the country for Keller Williams. She's about, what, 76, 75 years old? You'd never know it. She's spunky, she's a go-getter, she's brilliant. And she and I were talking, and she said, and her job now, she's come out of retirement, and she is trying to turn around Birmingham, which is the only negative place within the Southeast region. And I thought it was so fascinating because the reason I share this with you is, I want you to have a 5-minute celebration of yourselves. She said, I've got to get these agents to think of themselves as business owners. They don't. And she goes, and I've got to get them, and when she said this, my heart just sang. She said, I have to get them to be strategic thinkers. I thought, you should come here to me. We talk about that all the time. And really, you guys do that, and if you didn't do it, the numbers wouldn't show up the way that they show up. And you need to understand that's different, that's special, that's above average, that's great. Now, here's the blind side, right? Because we talk about this all the time. Your greatest strength is always your greatest what? Weakness. Right? The thing that makes you super great is the thing that will always bite you in the rear if you're not careful. Here's the challenge. You and I have had this conversation. Sometimes the biggest enemy to being great is the fact that you can be really, really good, right? And that can lull you into complacency. And a lot of you guys are just naturally, just by virtue of who you are. I wasn't going to say that. You said it, not me. You're naturally really, really good. And that can be a challenge because you do better than the average person just by showing up. And so to be great requires purpose, and it requires intentionality, and it requires focus, and it requires strategic thinking. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. We're going to get to some numbers and awards and celebration and all of that in a little bit, but see, this is strategic. I make you sit through the teaching to get the award afterwards. I won't even hide it. It's just what we do. We are at, let me see my phone. I meant to look this up. What's today's date?
17.
July 16th. Okay, you're going to completely hate me when I say this. We have, should have got this number ready, sorry, off my game. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 12 weeks to the end of the year.
No, so why did you do that?
And then we have 12 weeks to the end of the year. You have 12 weeks to write anything that will close this year. Because anything you write after November 15th isn't closing. Love you. I'm back. I'll leave now. September, October, yeah, August, September, October, 14 weeks. Sorry, like I said, I should have been prepared. We don't have long. You're at the turn of the year. You have the data there now to say you've got 6 months of track record, right? You've got 6 months of production, 6 months of appointments, 6 months of contacts, 6 months of written volume, closed volume, listings taken. You have all the data you need to say, now what do I have to do on the backside to hit my goals, right? It is worth your time to carve out time to sit down and say, where am I at? How do I need to reevaluate? I'll give you an example. We're going to talk about this a little bit today in the market center level. And again, I share this with you, not because you necessarily care, but because it's an example and I want to model it so you can mimic the behavior. We know that right now, our goal for profit sharing is $400,000 for this year. As of right now, at the turn of the year, we're on pace to profit share $415,000. Now that's assuming we repeat last year's second half. That's a big assumption. But we know exactly where we are, right? We know what we have to do going forward. I know that I'm behind by 6 agents on my recruiting goals. I've got to make up 6. I know exactly what I've got to make up and what I've got to do. And our whole team knows it, right? That's the concept. So why am I sharing that with you? That's how I want you thinking. What do you have to do going forward? You've got till November 15th to write business that closes at the end of the year. That's not a long time. We've had an awesome summer. It's been amazing weather. This has been great. I'm hoping you've been outside and enjoyed it. The challenge is when it gets like that, we forget that winter is coming. And I don't want to think about winter. I mean, believe me, trust me, if anybody in this room doesn't want to think about winter, it's me, and yet I own a business. And so do you. And so I have to, because I don't want to be starving in December. I want to have a great Christmas. And I want to be totally comfortable in January, February, March, and not saying, I don't want to be that person standing there going, first quarter really sucks. I hate the first quarter. I don't want to be, I want to be that person that's charging through the first quarter. And that means we have to get serious about thinking today.
We're doing Goldie in October?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. So I would, my challenge to you is take some time, look at your numbers. If you don't have your numbers for some reason, shame on you, but we've got the basics that we can give you. Jacob and I both have a spreadsheet. Many of you I sent it to, those of you that were in the top 100 in the state this year, you have it on your email, or so far year to date. It can give you your units closed, your total volume closed, your average sales price, and what you did last year at this time. So that's nothing, if nothing else, that's enough to get you going, right? So I want you to really put some stock into that. So how do you avoid complacency going to, I mean, and the other thing is it's been a good year, right? I mean, it's been a really good year. And we're going to talk about KW production versus the MLS production here in a few minutes. Remember, we've said this, a rising tide floats all ships, boats, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the right lingo is. It lifts everything that's in it. And and that can be, you know, lull you into complacency as well. The good news is you guys are outpacing the market significantly. So you're not just taking what the market's giving you, you're increasing it, which I believe, and I've said this to you before, but I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over and over again, I believe you are seeing the shift book come to life in your businesses. What's the principle in the shift book about market share? Does anybody remember?
You hold on to it in a declining market and increases in a rising market.
Okay, what you hold on to, yeah, if you can just hold on to your market share in a declining market. When the say that again?
Make it grow in a declining market.
Yeah, if you can make it grow, and if you can hold on, when the market bounces back, what happens to your market share? It does exactly what we're watching happen. It increases. So you're actually making up ground. So you guys are proving the shift book correct, is what you're doing. Now what I want you to do is lengthen your stride. Really stretch it out and increase that lead. So how do you do it? Sounds great. Rah rah. Yay. Feels good. What do you do? What does that mean? What are you thinking right now? What are you going to do when you go back into your business? Okay? What do you mean? Tell me more.
You can't, I mean, and I'm doing a book club right now, but you can't be thinking about when I'm gonna finish this year. You have to be thinking about what does it look like to be that $50 million producer or whatever your number is. You know, what would my systems hold up to, you know, maybe I have 20 pendings now, would it hold up to 40 pendings? Would I be able to manage 50 listings? Would I be able to, I mean, you need to be thinking bigger than what you're thinking. And I don't care what your number is right now, it still needs to be bigger.
Yeah, relative to wherever you are.
Exactly, and
Absolutely.
your system, and can your system support it? Because truthfully, most of the time they can't.
Okay, so when you say systems, give me an example of when you say, because I know, and I'm not criticizing, systems is kind of like a buzzword, right, in KW world.
No, it's
Systems,
not.
game changer, essentially, at the end of the day, those are all
The one
buzzwords.
thing.
But the one thing, when you say systems, talk to me about what you mean. Like, give me a,
You want to maintain well, in my business, I want to maintain the customer service level.
Okay.
Because if I'm just turning and burning people, then that's not going to help me. I'm a referral-based business.
right,
So if you know, this works, calling clients once a week is a perfect example. I thought that was a phenomenal idea until now I have enough listings that takes up a huge amount of time and I can't go on my listing appointments. Well, which is more important for me to call these people or for me to go on listing appointments?
yeah, you may come sit right next to her. And you're speaking her language right here.
So I have phenomenal people on my team that are super sweet, and honest to God, my clients would rather talk to them anyway. So I can have them do those. Hey guys, it's just me. I'm just saying.
I call it
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, Katie will sit there and she wants to know about their kids and how they're doing and everything else, and I'm like, are you gonna drop the price or are you gonna sit on the market? That's all I want to know. So she does a much better job than I do. And so we're building it out that way because we're removing it because I can go on listing appointments.
But hear what she said. Sorry, I wanted an example because I wanted you to get this. A system doesn't have to, a lot of times I think people think systems mean I have to get a whole new listing presentation, I have to get a whole new buyer consultation, and like they think really huge. They think about these big, huge pieces. And a lot of times the most effective changes you can make to your systems are these little things. So how many times have I taught about that? Little tweaks and adjustments, right? So calling your clients once a week. Yeah, you're right, when you have 5 listings, that's no problem. Maybe you can pound that out in an hour on a Monday. And then touch base, but when you are carrying more and your volume is increasing because of what the market is giving you, plus what you're building, all of a sudden that can be a real challenge. Katrina, you're working through this, you and Linwood together. Talk to me about some of the systems that you guys have had to really work on. Give me an example. Do what?
Like, we sold 4 houses last week, or pinned 4, and it's just like, just even trying to get it to Lisa, what does that look like? What's included in that? I mean, when it's just me and Lisa, she can say, hey, this is what I need and that kind of thing, but trying to communicate that to everybody, so what does that look like? What needs to be turned in whenever it touches her desk? Everything that needs to be there. So that's been a challenge from last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Now these are, get me right, these are high-class problems, right? These are great problems to have. This is a lot better than, I just sold a house and I don't have any money and I don't know what to do. It's still a challenge. So this is a great time to sit down and go, okay, where do I want to be? What do I need to do? And what has to happen to get me there? Right? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think-
you and then you.
You first.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I think one of the biggest things too is keeping the basics in mind too, like time blocking, because you are so busy and you're sitting there going, I want to go and I want to, I know, right? But I want to go and I have all these listing appointments, so I'm just going to do all of this and then I'm going to drop my lead gen, or I'm going to, if you're a transaction coordinator, I'm going to drop my time that I'm focused on this one specific task, and then what you find is that, maybe those listings aren't getting entered as accurately as they should be, or maybe I don't have as big of a pipeline as I thought I did, or so I think it's really easy to get caught up in the market and not focus on what your job is,
There's
and
a
really
class.
I don't know. I heard something. It's crazy.
I heard something about some
discipline.
Right, and the execution.
Right.
What were you gonna say?
Sorry, when you're talking about the 4 disciplines, the acronym always reminds me of the Portland Airport or something.
40X, PDX, yeah, I know. We can just call it that if
Right.
you want.
You all understand, I know that they talk about systems the same way that a lot of people talk about scripts, like it's something that 20, 30, $40 million producers use. Understand that if you're selling $3 million a year, that's the system you're using. Coming into work, hopping on Facebook, checking your LinkedIn, and then making a few phone calls. That's your system for your business. And it's a system that yields you $3 million a year in sales. So if you want to tweak your system, that's the system you're using.
Because you do have a system.
Understand, it's just like scripts.
Yeah.
You may not script, but every time somebody calls and says, hey, what's this house over on Boniface listed at? 329. Thanks. That's your script, and it's not working. So just because you don't script, or just because you don't have a system, you do. It's just not a purposeful one.
Well, it's like, it's funny you say that, because I was having a conversation with a recruit Friday afternoon, and he was talking to me about a buddy of his that, and he said, I was telling him, he said the exact same thing. He's like, he needs a system. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, he has he said the same thing. He said he has a system. He walks in the office, he checks ESPN.com, then he goes onto Facebook, then he goes onto Fox News, then his system is the order of events by which he checks what's happening. And then he goes, oh, maybe I should check some people. And then he goes, oh, I don't have anything to do. Really? It's shocking. But it is his system. Now, the good news is that particular agent that we're talking about has totally changed everything, restarted, reset, and is moving forward. And when I saw him the other day, he was literally shadow boxing in the hallway because he had so many leads and he was excited and he was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. So there is hope for that. That's a great point. You have a system, whether you think so or not. But I want you guys, what I think you do better than most agents in most offices across the country, and it's now showing up. There's always a lag time, right? So you start doing work, you do work really well. Do you see results immediately, Katrina and Linwood? We just talked about this Friday, right? You do all the right things, and you see some results, but it's this. Now, what happens after about 90 to 100 to 180 days? You take off. So you got to stick with it in the lag time and just trust. That's a trust step, because at some point you build on systems, you build on models, you use all the tangible things, and then there's always that leap of faith. This has to work. This has to work. It's the same thing in the market center. We've done a lot of work on systems and models and doing things the right way. Initially, it didn't show up, Matt. Seriously, just being vulnerable. How many conversations did you and I have about this over the course of a year, really? 2 years ago.
Like more than once a week.
Yeah. When's it going to show up? When's it going to show up? We would have this conversation, right? We go back and forth. When's it going to show up? We know. And did we ever question that we were doing the right things?
No, you kept doing the right thing.
But it was like our high D, our high vector 1s, low vector 3s were going now. But then all of the sudden, literally all of the sudden, it just went.
Which is the same with lead generation too. It's
Bingo.
like we get busy and that's why our business goes up and down, because we forget to do what really matters.
Correct. Again, there's an airport
One
that's
more
being
time.
taught about tomorrow. It's really, I love the Portland airport. It's actually a nice airport.
Well, it's just funny because, I get to tell the team whenever you told me like 3 years ago, don't get attached to the activity, to the outcome, the activity. And so it's funny because when we were doing our coaching in Kim and Terry, it's just, over the last couple of months, doing those activities every day and just, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to do. If we get a buyer's, appointment or whatever, that's great, but we don't want to be attached to the outcome, because if you just do the activity, it's going to show up.
Absolutely,
It's just-
absolutely. So that's really the focus, and I love that you brought it to that, because that's the focus I want you having going into the second half of the year. And it's a real balancing act. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's a tightrope, because you can get caught up spending too much time working on the business. Critiquing and tweaking and writing a system and writing a plan and strategizing, which, hear me, you know how important I think that this is. At the same time, you can't let up on the action, right? I mean, not to pick on you, but just because it's appropriate to what we're talking about, this is the conversation that you and I have had, is how do I stay on the dials when we're working so hard on the system and the team model and the training? It's really, really hard to stay on top of the dials, but what happens if the dials stop? The water spigot gets shut off, and you gotta have the money to run the business while you're building out these systems. So it's not easy. It's simple, it's not easy. And if it was easy, every schmo would be a $60 million producer. An orangutan with mittens, I think.
Yeah. Any orangutan with mittens.
I get one.
But you only have one. Oh my gosh, he took his wrap off the other day, and I hadn't seen him since and I was like, oh, cover that up. His hand is like the Incredible Hulk coming through. It was huge. And maybe riding a bike isn't always as easy as
Just saying.
So my encouragement to you is, and I really think, I hope you're signed up for tomorrow's class. It is full. We are full with a waiting list. I hope you're signed up, and we have 88 people signed up and a waiting list of several more to get a seat. We went off-site. This is a perfect opportunity to take that, because it's going to re-engage your brain to really hit it hard the second half of the year. The market is giving you so many gifts right now. I mean, it really is. It's kind of serving itself up on a platter, in the sense. It's not totally easy, but it's a good market. It's a great market that we're in. I want you taking advantage of that at a really, really high level. So, any thoughts or comments or input on that? No? Everybody's good? Smart? No. All right, let's get into some production information. So we're going to go through the market center first, and then the market as a whole, and then we'll get into individuals, okay? So here's where you guys are. So this is June over June. So 2012 June over 2013 June. Last June, you guys closed 251 units. This year, closed 322. Last June, you closed 65 million in volume. These numbers are long. Take me a minute to write. This June, you closed 91 million. I mean, like, if you just stop and think about it for a second.
That's a lot.
Can we just get a shout out to Allison and Casey? Listings taken. You guys, listings, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this before or not, but if you haven't, you might want to write this down. Listings are what makes your business. Listings drive your market share. This is what I love to see. You keep turning up the listing volume. You've increased your listings taken by 61. Apparently simple math eludes me. Thank you. Thank you, Shane, to help. Listings sold. So this is obviously the listings that you had versus, or that went under contract and closed. Last year, 101. This year, 147. Obviously written. Why do we track written units? Why do you track what you've written? It's future business. Pipeline business. Future business, right? You gotta know what's coming. Am I writing more than I'm closing? If you're writing more than you're closing, the answer is always good. Really, really good. So you guys wrote, now, here's why I like this. Number one, you're way up over last year. Number two, what else are you up over? Overclosed. Overclosed, right? Matt and Beth in the back of the room, and everyone that receives profit share sees that number and says, yay. Good, good, good. One of my favorite numbers, GCI, because it's not about, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the money you make. I heard Kay say something really, really great, and I gotta tell you, this is totally personal and off subject. One of the cool things about teaching down there was that my father and my mom and my brother got to come and watch.
Oh, cool.
And my parents have never seen me do what I do. And it was really cool. And the cutest thing that you've ever seen in your life. My mom's about 5 foot nothing. A few of you guys met her when she came up here for my daughter's graduation. And she's perfect. She's the sweetest. I mean, when I asked her one time, I said, Mom, have you ever intentionally done something wrong? Like knew it was wrong and chose to do it anyway? And first she had to think, which was a bad indicator right there. And then she looked at me, and I swear, if I'm lying, I'm dying, this was her answer. She said, one time there was a no left-hand turn sign, and I knew that I wasn't supposed to turn left, but I did it anyway, and I was like, oh, well, I know. I will never live up to this bar, ever, because I do that every day. Anyways, my mom was in the back of the room.
That was you.
What's a suggestion? So I'm sitting there teaching, there's about 80, 90 people. My parents are in the back of the room at the table, and I'm asking, I've got my board out, my post-it, and I'm like, okay, so where do we get listing leads from? And the class was being awesome. They were super participatory, they had high energy, and I look in the back of the room, and my mom's going, the internet! Church! And I look at my dad and my brother, and they're like, who are you? She's such an encourager, and I said, Mom, what were you doing? She goes, I just wanted to participate and help you out. My dad's like, I'm going to lose my 65-year-old wife to a new career in real estate. Oh my gosh, it was the funniest thing. But anyways, Kay said something at the very beginning of the class that my dad totally loved and had me actually email it to him later. And we're going to steal it and I'm going to use it, so get used to it. She says, money is good for the good that money can do. And I love that. So, what was your GCI?
No.
We wrote out basically $2.5 million in income to you guys. That's insane. That's insane. Just crazy. I really like this number. Our average price. Now, guys, you got to remember, our market center is one market center. So that means that in our numbers are places like Casilla, Palmer, Soldotna. Those have lower average sales prices. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just a fact. So what's going to happen to our market center's average sales price? It's going to be harder to get it up, right? So this is about what we flux at. Right in there between the, the 169, 189 down at the peninsula, 189, 199 in the valley. But you guys brought this up. Wow. That's a big deal. That's like a huge deal to me. It's going to be really interesting. This is the first time we've jumped that high. So I always believe 1 month can be kind of an anomaly. And I'm okay with that. But we're going to watch that and see what happens, right? And see if that, how that affects. Profit share, last year we had a crazy great June. 46 grand, I think at that time may have been, I don't remember, it might have been the record for us that year. However, we still managed to beat it out. 47,170. Here's what's really amazing. Year to date, we have profit share back in 6 months, $219,423. Last year, our total profit share was $306,040. Last year, at this time, we had profit shared $111,132. And last year was like, holy crap, this is a great year. Yeah. So, I mean, again, just get some perspective.